Thank you for tuning in to Exeter TV. The meeting will be starting shortly. While we wait, let's learn more about Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast channels 98 and 22. Channel 98 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 13, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well.
Hear ye. The meeting is now in session. Well, we've got Amanda on screen, and we are,
I hope that they go back to that option about virtual meetings.
Oh.
Because we never had the participation we had.
during COVID stuff?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. I mean, our attendance on all the boards and committees went through the roof.
Oh, really? Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And then just as a Housing Advisory Committee last month, we had Housing Advisory Committee with the economic developments in the region, and we had 7 of them at the meeting. If that was an in-person meeting, I guarantee you we wouldn't have more.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, because people from Rochester and stuff, they can just click a button at their desk, jump in.
We're live on TV, just so you know.
Yeah.
Yep.
If you want to talk into the mic. So they
Oh, no. It was just a side for, you know, the participation level on virtual meetings is
Gotcha.
great.
Well, it's on, so it's whatever you're sending.
Yeah.
All right.
Hi, Amanda. Can you hear us?
I can. You're a little underwatery.
Okay. Is that better? We're just waiting for Rob. We'll get started in just a second. This is so weird that I can see myself on screen. I don't think I like that.
You're not used to it from Zoom?
Not at all. I'm like, God, I look like that. But yeah, we'll get going. We'll give Rob like 2 more minutes and then we'll get started.
Now you can't blame Zoom anymore though, right? Now this is a different camera, so
Yeah.
you can blame your computer camera now.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know how long this is going to last, Amanda, because I am unprepared too. But we'll get caught up. Oh, there he is.
Going to the big table, huh?
Yes. We are being recorded now. And we'll get started in just a moment.
Thanks for letting me zoom in. A little while longer till kids get their
Yeah.
vaccines.
No, I think this will work out okay. And yeah, when we do attendance, I guess you just have to say the reason why you're attending remotely, you know, without
Sure.
getting too specific and personal, and also if anybody's in the room with you. So, but I don't have to read that COVID thing anymore.
Nope. Yeah, you don't
All
have
right.
to read that.
Excellent.
Can you guys hear her fine? Because I can like turn up her volume if you need.
Yeah, I could hear. She's saying our. Can you hear us okay, Amanda, or
Yeah,
not?
it's better now.
Yeah, I
Okay.
There's a
turned
little
it down because it was too loud.
extra
Oh, okay.
That's probably sounded weird.
Gotcha.
vibrating.
Still working out all.
It's the hybrid case.
You guys are good to go.
Okay, thank you. All right, so let's get started. Welcome to. Oh, did you?
I'm not asking after for a mic.
Oh, you can. Why don't you come sit over here?
Yeah.
No, you could.
Staff supports.
All right. Well, I mean, you're probably the feature on the agenda once we get to the public safety complex feasibility study, but we'll do our roll call here. So this is our first meeting back, Facility Advisory Committee, in person, July 1st, 2021. So let's take a quick roll call. Rob.
Rob Corson,
Here,
here.
I guess. Okay, Mark.
Mark Layden here.
Amanda.
Amanda Kelly, I
Chris,
am
sorry.
remote
You don't have
due to medical
be speaking
reasons.
that close to it because it is like the mic's like picking up like too loud.
All right, cool.
So, as long as you're within like 6 inches, like that far. It's
Oh,
good.
okay.
Yeah, sorry about that.
I'm sorry, can you do that again, Amanda?
Yeah, okay.
This meeting's a cluster. So,
No worries. Amanda Kelly here, remotely here in Exeter, zooming in for medical reasons, and I'm alone in the room.
sounds good. So the first item on our agenda is meeting minutes from June 3rd. I don't believe I was at that meeting.
You were.
I think I missed the...
Participated a little bit, but fundamentally you weren't here.
Oh, yes. So do you guys, are you prepared to review and approve those minutes?
I don't think I've seen the meeting minutes, so I don't know.
Okay.
Rob, have you?
I haven't.
All right, so
So
I
they-
guess we just figured out
They
that
just went out today.
Joanna was sending them to me and I wasn't distributing them to the group appropriately. So we will table the approval of the minutes from 6/3 and I'll send those out to you after this meeting.
They actually were included in the agenda and stuff that you forwarded earlier today, so they're in that.
Oh,
Oh,
that's true.
Yeah, so they're included in
All
that.
right, so my apologies as we get used to all of our new processes. So from there, I guess we'll jump into the old business portion. I'm trying to think, I'm not missing any of the other stuff that we need to do, right? We can just get into the agenda. I don't have any other, it seems weird. I got used to doing the Zoom meetings and now I'm not used to this in-person stuff. So, yeah, I don't think there's any other things I have to do. So we'll get into the old business. And the first item on the agenda is an update on the feasibility study for the public safety complex. sounds like Dave has completed getting all of his RFQ submissions and is ready to start moving into the selection phase. So, Dave, what do you have for us on that?
Yeah, thank you. We got a tremendous response. I guess the accurate term
Wow.
would be a box full of responses right here. We've got 15 responses to our RFQs. The next step is we are creating an interview panel. I think I mentioned this to the committee before.
Yes.
And one of the things I would like from today is a volunteer from that to be on the interview panel. It's going to be myself, the chiefs, town manager's expressed an interest. He's going to see if a select board member wanted to be on it as well. So, and a FAC member, and then we would, I would pass out the proposals to everyone. I got some evaluation criteria. We'd evaluate the proposals and then pick a certain amount of firms that we want to interview, and then have a first round of interviews and go from there. And whether we wanted to go back to further interviews or interview, someone else twice or others twice, that's what we do. And then, recommend a selection to the select board.
So Dave, just remind me that we did not ask for any fees associated with this, right? This is just qualifications.
Correct. And because I think one of the most important things is, one of my most important questions would be, what's our best approach? What are the critical next steps that you feel are important to go to? Because we had a long list and a price tag associated with it, and we got it reduced. So now we got to figure out what the critical next steps are, and I'm looking forward to asking and then the committee, and we can figure out what the critical next steps to be, and then do a cost proposal at that time.
Sounds good. So as far as a volunteer on our end, does anybody, and this is open to anybody on the committee, who is interested in volunteering on this?
I'm going to recuse myself from this discussion, as the firm that I work for has solicited or submitted a proposal for it, so will not participate in this portion.
Gotcha. Amanda, anything you're interested in doing?
I don't have a strong interest in it.
Okay,
But
so I guess that leaves
can.
Mark out.
So can we talk
I
about,
don't know if Mark or Peter are strongly interested in doing it.
well, maybe it would help us all, so what do you think as far as the schedule and timing?
Well, we're not under 91A because we're an interview panel. It's just, so we can meet via Zoom. And I haven't gone through all these to see where they're coming from, but I think it would be easier on everyone. So there's that. But I envision taking the time to review all the 15, scoring them in the evaluation criteria, and getting your pile. And then we'll meet together. We could do that virtually. So we got, on your own time review of the proposals and the scoring. Then we'll meet as a panel to decide who we'd like to interview. That shouldn't be that long. And then we'll actually hold the interviews. So those can be, usually at something like this, I like to interview for, 3 to 5, at least 3, sometimes up to 5. So that's kind of like a day event, like a 5-hour. Usually just try to get it over with, schedule them an hour apart and just take a lunch break and get them done. And then meet again to coordinate and select select who we'd like to continue to work with. So that's what I see the commitment level is.
So it's a bit of time.
Yeah.
Is that something?
Probably about 8 to 10 hours, let's say, total.
And what do you think as far as when you want this complete by?
I mean, it was 7 people on the interview panel. It's going to be, dependent on people's times, and it's a lot of vacation around now. So, I mean, that's going to be up to the people's availability. I don't have a set time, but I'd like to think that, in the next month or, 4 to 6 weeks, we'd be able to, get this done.
Yeah.
Okay. I would love to do it. I haven't had as much time lately, so Mark, I mean, if it's something that you would like to do, I would probably recommend you to do it.
I was going to say, I mean, I think for me, it's just going to be the timing, and trying to dedicate the time. So, either
What do you
way.
think?
How about
A coin?
well, I mean, we could also, it's not something that we have to do at an official meeting. I could reach out to Peter and or Daryl to see if they're willing, because they're not here.
Yeah.
But they might be.
But you're going to have a select board rep.
Yeah, that would almost double that would almost maybe, reduce it down to,
Yeah.
if FAC and a select board member if
yeah.
Mr.
Yeah.
Brown was willing, so.
Right.
I'm just throwing that out there as an option.
Yeah, no, that's an option. I was just thinking like, between Mark or I, we have more experience than Peter in this type of project as well, so I guess I would favor one of us over
Yeah.
Peter in this role. Nothing against Peter, and if he was here, I'd say the same thing. Yeah, we can flip a coin, I guess, if you want to do that, or.
Yeah. I mean, I don't mind. I would like to do it. It's just I want to make sure I can commit to it. That's the only
Exactly,
thing.
yeah, I had
you know,
a difficult time myself trying
Yeah.
to squeeze it in, but when would the start date be, like probably next week or the week after as far as?
Yeah, I mean, I'd send it out and probably give everyone plenty of time, because I know there's 15 proposals, and that's a
Yeah.
lot to go through. So, I'd give a few weeks to
Yeah.
absorb them, and then, have a meeting maybe at the end of July to select interviews, have the interviews in the beginning of August or something, when we can, and then go from there.
Okay, you want to flip a coin, or is that, or would you, if you feel strongly you can do it?
I'll do it. I'll volunteer.
Okay.
So then, maybe I can
Sounds good.
I can share with you. We can
Yeah.
do a team effort a little bit.
Okay,
But,
yeah, that would be great. Yeah, I wouldn't mind reviewing stuff,
Yeah.
and give you my input on that, that's for sure. And as far as like the in-person stuff, yeah, I think you're a better
Yeah.
fit for that, because you're in the area.
Yeah, right. I can
More
get easier
frequently
than you
than I
can.
am, yeah.
Yeah.
All
Okay,
right,
all right, I'm in.
so Mark is our representative, Dave.
I'm getting them as, you're leaving with a pile.
Yes.
And then, so is this all in print? You don't have any electronic submissions?
We do. We do.
Or I guess if you want me to look over some of those.
But they usually like to put the glossy thing together and so
Yeah,
forth.
no, it is. It's just that, yeah, I can review some stuff too.
Yeah, why don't you and I can combine
Okay,
effort?
we'll figure it
Yeah.
out. Yeah.
And so Dave, we could do you're asking for us to do our evaluation for each firm and give that to you, right? So you'll have a sheet for each.
I'll send you that out.
Yep.
That talks about, the criteria that we use.
Okay.
And then it's like a point, and you write, if it's 1 to 10, you fill in your
Right.
thing, and then it's a score at the end. And it's just more to help you evaluate and, more than anything else. It's not like you're married to it's not like we add them all up and whoever has the
Right.
highest wins.
Just to
but-
help us between the proposals,
Exactly, and
right?
start the discussion and so forth, so.
But do we share those with you, or is that just for us to be able to talk to when we meet?
Yeah, we share them together when we meet.
Okay, because I didn't know, because we could do this in advance and then share those with you, and then,
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's
All right,
that's what I would envision, because when I come to meet, I'm gonna have all my evaluations done.
Got it.
All my sheets are gonna be filled out, with the correspondent proposal. It's all gonna be ready, so we can have a
Got it.
fruitful discussion.
but you're not asking each interview team member to give you those sheets in advance, so that you're not
No.
compiling scores? Okay, got it.
Nope, nope.
That's fine.
Okay. I think that's good. Any other comments on the public safety complex study? Nothing from Rob. All right, we'll move on to the next item. The next item is the Rains Farm recommendation letter submission. I have to apologize, I haven't caught up on what we've been doing over the last month, so Amanda, I don't know if you can give us an update on that, or what do we owe them and when? I believe we're a little bit late on something, but where are we at with that?
We reviewed the letter in the last meeting, and we approved it 4-0. I sent it to you afterward with Peter's edits.
Okay. And
So
that's,
if you want to be on that, we said that we might be able to find a way to make it, your vote be on there, but we all approved it.
yeah, I mean, if you all approved it, then I'm fine with that.
It's ready
We
to
can
go.
Let it go as is. Is that something that you can then forward to the Rains Farm Committee?
Sure.
Or would you like, I can do it too if you want, I just.
It should be in your inbox already,
Okay,
but
all
I can
right.
resend it, put it to the top.
All right, so I will take that and then I will forward it both to the Select Board and to the Rains Farm Stewardship Committee.
Okay.
That sounds good. I mean, basically, from the discussions that we had prior to you drafting the letter, I think I was in agreement with what we were thinking on that matter anyway, so I'm pretty sure the letter, I won't have any issue with the letter. All right, so another one down. We're flying through the agenda tonight.
Just as an aside, what we did discuss last time at the end of the meeting was to go back to recreate our standard agenda, and then also on that, make sure that we have the calendar for the events that we're trying to hit from a tracking standpoint. So I don't know if it sounds like that calendar wasn't quite ready yet, or if there needs additional work, then maybe that's something we could put on our list of things that we can complete, so we can actually have a roadmap that we can make sure we're hitting some of those items.
Yeah, I think Peter had populated it quite a bit. I'm not sure what's outstanding on it. I mean, we could take a look at it tonight, but I don't know how to access it from this computer, so.
It's one of those things we talked about doing as a standing agenda item, right? I think just
Look at the milestones.
Yeah, just to look at see where we are. So we're, like to Rob's point, we're staying on track.
Yeah, I think Peter's done a pretty good job getting that up to date, I believe.
The last time I looked at it it looked up to date, and had the kind of the major milestones as far as the budget process, obviously with Dave's and Russ's input for that. So I think we have the kind of the critical dates that we're trying to hit. The issue is just making sure that if there are items that we need to get back to them, like the Rains Farm or the recommendation on the public safety complex, or any other items that we need to complete our work on.
Yeah, was there any item that you know in particular that it's upcoming that we need to hit? Or is this just a general comment on?
I think it was a general comment on trying to make sure that if we created the calendar, we created the thing, so that we wanted to make sure that we're using it as a way of tracking tool, so we can,
But there are some coming up pretty soon.
Yeah.
With the budgets and with the capital planning and stuff.
So you have really the start of your budget process has started already, right?
We just
kicked it off.
No, yeah, we haven't gotten the directive from the town manager, but we did get the BRC schedule today, so it's starting. Yes, it's CIP. We're in the CIP right now, which I have for you later.
Perfect.
All right, so I think, any other comment on Rains Farm? Okay, we'll move on to the next item. Next item I have is a facilities conditions assessment. Sounds like there was some discussion on that at the last meeting, and Rob, it sounds like you reviewed the proposal once again. So
Yeah.
do you want to give us an update on what's going on with that?
So I think generally one of our things we talked about was trying to get this out there so that it actually, one is that we think it's still an important item. That's one of the things I wanted to do that we discussed last time, which is that what is outlined in that is still a goal of the facilities committee, and that by sending it out there, we can actually establish both who's qualified, as well as a budget for the qualifications, so we can begin to solicit either the select board or our maintenance department, or the DPW on putting together, whether it's in the budget or whether it's a warrant article item for the FCA. So that was the directive. I took a look just back through it and just kind of said, looking at dates, and put a couple of items just on scope that clarified. I wanted to have a little more on deliverables, which I pretty much focused on just saying that as part of this draft, which would be some examples of the database, examples of graphical information and reporting, samples of conditions assessment, and a sample of an estimate and cost update functions or tools that they have with that. So just so that they could give us something so that we can actually begin to use that as one is a talking point for us to go to the select board and to everybody else about what our vision is for this, so we can actually show people what it is, and then explain to them why it's important for the community to support, doing a overall. I think in light of what's happening for our infrastructure and everything else, I think this is a good time for this because it's hot on everyone's mind. So,
And Rob, we talked about at the last meeting, those talking points, right? I know you sent me something, so I'm sorry I didn't get back to you.
Yep.
As far as, so we talked about developing that to get ready to really promote this again. And also just so there was a company that reached out to me a few weeks ago that does these for municipalities, and so I think they're interested in this processing.
Great.
He reached out to me knowing that I had worked with them at the Academy's campus, and so he had asked if he knew about the town as far as talking about this, so that he's asked about where we are. So anyways, it's a resource I think we could reach out to. I think they're willing to help just if we need some information from them to move this process along.
Okay, one thing I would ask is, we originally wanted to post the proposal or request for proposals in order to get a bid. Dave, do you or Russ have any issues like posting this if we don't really have a budget for it yet? Or should we approach this the way you did with the RFQs or not the RFQ, but the original RFP for the feasibility study where you went to a couple firms informally and just asked them for an assessment on what the cost would be to do that type of service? Is that something we should try with this?
Well, that's really, I got to talk to Russ about issuing RFPs. I don't make that decision.
Okay.
How we usually do it, though, is the way I did it. I go out and get some ballpark, numbers,
Right.
and then, proceed through it. Because a lot of times, when we put out an RFP, people responding, they assume we have the funds to pay for it.
Yeah.
Usually, but I'm not saying it can't be done, but.
yeah, I put in the language in this is that the approval of this and moving forward would be contingent upon the town vote in March, so that they would know. Plus, the timing of it really was set up so that ultimately the RFQ information really is coming to us in December. Kind of time frame prior to the January vote on the warrant articles or whatever else is going into the 2022 budget items, but also gives them some time to be able to put that together, and then knowing that it's a March vote for moving it forward. So one thing that I do like about having it as an RFP or RFQ is that you actually get qualified firms that are, and not to say that, we're not going to solicit qualified firms, but at least if we have qualified firms and if the money gets approved in March, we don't necessarily have to go back from a timing standpoint, back out again to the marketplace and say, hey, by the way, now we're going to actually issue an RFP. Now we're behind the schedule time frame versus the idea of saying that if we could, in April, May, we were able to get them started, then they actually could deliver something to us before the next budget cycle. So I'm looking at trying to make sure that we're staying ahead of the budget cycle versus waiting till the budget cycle and then, losing another year, right?
I support that way just because of that, so that you hit the ground running and you can get the information, the deliverable can be here so that it's usable for that next budget cycle, like you're saying. So it's a pretty straightforward scope, right? It's something that could be, we're not asking a firm to invest a lot of money or effort into providing a proposal. So, and as long as they know the situation that we're asking them to hold that proposal through March.
Yeah.
Then they know the circumstances.
So when would we ask the administration to post this
As
publicly?
soon as possible, I think.
Right now, I'm putting it September 23rd for the issuing, and then coming back on the October 28th, shortlisted on the 30th, November 19th, interviews, November 16th, and kickoff would be, again, basically it says 22 anticipates funding for this effort to be tied to the 22 budget and town vote in March of 22.
So you would open it up for submissions on the 23rd of September, is that correct?
Yep, and then we're looking at a deliverable from them as of September of 2022 for the actual product.
Okay. So it wouldn't have to be posted until probably August or something, or?
Yeah, I don't know what the,
You said issue.
Yeah.
That's the date of the issue.
Right.
September, oh, okay.
Yep.
All right.
Which actually works a little better. I didn't know you were going to go through the interview process or wait on the interview process. But you're saying go through the interview process,
Well-
select the firm with the understanding.
I mean, I think that's, that's
would
reasonable.
be-
They know,
It would be the town doing
Full
the
disclosure.
interview process as well, like. we're
Well,
not-
correct.
yeah.
I understand the interview panel, just like, kind of like
Yeah.
what we do here, and we'd go through that process,
Right.
but then we'd get it in time for the budget, so that works, right, for the budget,
that's
September.
what the
and
intent
October.
was, is that all of the scheduling is really to work within the timeframe we've already established for, trying to get things so it can hit the budget committee, it can hit the whole process for, approving the budget, and then it hits the town vote or the select board vote in January for funding, so that we're hitting all of those dates.
So we're looking at the primary mode of funding would be a CIP item or a warrant article type of thing.
We actually did discuss the ideas that could it be, if we decided that when we looked at it, that we could get, per our original thing, is and I asked them to break out the database from the actual the conditions assessment, so that if we wanted to say that if it was, say it was $15,000 or $20,000 for the database, and it was $30,000 for the other stuff, that we could actually say, well, could we put $20,000 or $15,000 into the budget, the maintenance budget, get that portion done, and then knowing that we could actually go into 2022 budget for asking for the conditions assessment. The database could take advantage of really taking the base information we already have and then beginning to populate it without them literally coming out to the and going through all the facilities. They could take the existing reports that we have, and actually it's more of a database data collection piece as opposed to them physically coming out and evaluating pieces of equipment, roofs, windows and doors and things like that. So that's the thought.
So I guess I'd suggest, so you have kind of what you have now, the latest version?
Yeah. So
If you can get that to me,
Yeah, I copied
then
it.
I will, oh, you did?
Yeah, you and Russ,
When did-
this morning? Or-
Oh, okay. All right, that's
Or you can
probably why.
resend it.
I'm
Yeah.
in meeting boy all
Yeah, that's
day.
fine. Yeah. it just-
So,
And if
okay,
you-
so you have it.
Yep.
What I will do is I will make sure Russ is off on vacation next week and a little bit of the week after. So I'll get together with him before our next meeting, talk to him about the plan, get his thoughts, and I'll have, his thoughts back to you
Okay,
at the next
great.
meeting. That's what I can
Fair
do.
enough.
And then, do you have I didn't open it yet, so do you have a specific building list? Like, these are the buildings?
Yeah, we have
Okay.
the list of town-owned properties.
No, I mean, for the conditions assessment, like these, there's,
We did it
9
one
buildings,
time.
11 buildings, whatever it is, the
Yes.
specific names of the buildings in there?
We did it one
Okay.
time, it might
I think
need to
that would be,
updated.
we
Well,
would want that attached to the,
Yeah, so I have
Yeah.
it's something actually we put in our thing, which is basically here's all of our town properties. This is the start of it, which has the date of when they were put into service, the age of the facility, kind of a quick, images that we currently have of the facilities. And so it's kind of it's taken from the town report.
Yeah.
So
So it's all buildings and, it's all our buildings?
it's all buildings.
All buildings. Is it like pump station, dog houses, and so
Currently,
forth?
no. It's basically,
Okay.
it's all the kind of the
Okay.
major buildings.
Yeah.
Obviously, things that.
Town offices, town hall,
Yeah,
rec?
Yeah.
Okay.
So anything that's tied to, say, water sewer, to me, we'd have to separate that stuff.
That's
out.
why I was asking.
Right.
We'd figure out where the funding would
Right.
come from, and it could be budget, could be
Exactly.
CIP,
So
could be.
water sewer would be, so it's town-owned properties that are not tied to the water sewer funds piece of it, and so that's
Okay,
that's
good.
the thing. And our goal ultimately would be is that as we go through this, is that to be able to prioritize those. So if we get a list of properties, and we can sit there and say, we want to do, next year, we want to do 4. And the year after that, we want to do 4. And so,
And a lot of that will be based on what budget we feel like is appropriate.
Yeah.
Because we did start, if I remember right, when we first started this, we did start to prioritize,
yes.
look at buildings that we felt like had the most need.
Yeah, we originally were going to break up the RFP into 2 parts to try
Yeah.
to defray the cost a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah, that's right. It was
Yeah,
a
we had
phase
like
1, phase 2 approach.
I think we
right.
chose 4 buildings in the initial
But,
run.
I mean, you guys, that may be something that you could help us with as far as, these are the buildings that
Right.
are the priority, and
Yeah.
because you could always do that at priority 1, priority 2.
And one of the things too is
Yeah,
we
that's-
discussed, which is to dovetail this with any other reports. So like if we have when the ADA report comes through, if we can get that, at least a portion of get that report in an electronic format. So part of the spreadsheet would be an accessibility, column. So we can actually put onto that what characteristics are part of that. And if we have anything from the, maybe solicit some questions from the Energy Committee and things like that, so that if there's anything that's on there that we have targeted from a community standpoint, we'd actually list those items so that they have a good starting point for their building the database.
While we're talking about that, Dave, that's the DAC track that they referred to in the study? Is
Well-
that something we can get access to at some point, or just a download of if we can't get live access?
Sure. I mean, I think I have no problem getting, someone wants to have access to DAC Track, because right now I think the users on it, Jeff Beck, myself, and Doug Eastman, because Jeff Beck's the maintenance, Doug Eastman's the ADA coordinator, and I was involved in the study, so I can definitely get access to DAC Track, yeah.
Yeah.
DAC Track, it's a software that came with the thing that has it all written on spreadsheets, and it's your ability to track the improvements, and you can put in you can prioritize them, you can add notes, you can check
that's
them
what
when
we
they're
want.
complete.
That's fundamentally what this is, that's exactly what we're looking at as far as this database
Yep.
is exactly that.
Yeah, and it's expand beyond the ADA.
Yeah.
It talks about structural, it talks about roof,
Exactly.
it talks
Yep.
about HVAC, so, yeah, this
But
is,
yeah,
I
exactly.
exactly know what you're looking at,
Yep.
yeah. I don't know if DAC Track can expand to those building components.
Well, and that's part of the trick of these things is that you have some of the more developed systems have the ability of you being able to sit there and say, I want to just basically add a column, and the column's going to be accessibility. It's going to be whatever, it allows you to customize and then add to those things as you decide that there's certain things that you want to add to the database. And that gives us a lot more flexibility of using potentially a more singular tool versus one for ADA, one for this, and one for that, and one.
Well, one of the things we put in the RFP was that the output should integrate with what the town has now, and I believe that's what the DPW uses in terms of.
Yeah, they have the
maintenance
PeopleSoft, yep.
Yeah, so they have a system that should be extensible to handle something like this, and we've required them to make sure that whatever comes out of this will integrate with that.
Yep. And just as one of the other discussions we did have was the meeting that we had with Jennifer from the DPW. She had mentioned this idea that they were beginning to look at a system that would be very similar to this, and maybe we should, have that discussion again about what the platform is, so that if anybody's out there looking for another platform to doing these things, let's not replicate 4 different people looking at 4 different, the same tool to do the same thing. If we can share on that, then that's the benefit. It's just being able to sit there and say, having the resources to be able to do the data input, but also create the flexibility so that that you can add to the system and have it do what you want it to do. The reporting part of it is very important. I mean, and if you use a lot of that, Mark, as far as reporting, be able to quickly go through and, do a graph, look at your, success rate of getting projects done. It gives you some tools to be able to show that to the public and to the select board and stuff like that.
Two other things I would add on this too is, not only to make sure that we're not duplicating efforts in terms of identifying systems and compatible systems, but one thing I think we need to do is to figure out how this fits into the town and who on the town would be tasked with updating this, because we would be looking at annual updates. So as far as who that would be on the town, we probably need to figure that out before we put this out as an RFP.
Right. Part of what I also added to the RFP was for them to give a budget number to an annual maintenance and an annual update, so that if we decided that we wanted to, again, to be able to have them update the information on an annual basis, that they could actually provide that as part of the service. I know that that's what when I was at Exeter, we had them update the assessment, and it was part of the software licensure as well as the updates, which was what was nice about that. It was tied to, from a financial standpoint, it was tied to all the database they had for being able to update numbers based upon inflation and other things that were tied to the local or the Boston index for cost estimating.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we have a plan for not only securing it, but also onboarding it and maintaining it and using it going forward, because I don't want it to die on the vine after the first year.
No, I echo that. That you can't roll something out and then not maintain it. So we got to be clear on that. I don't know who that person is, but we probably want to have that discussion.
Absolutely.
About that.
I agree. We need buy-in from somebody to say, hey, that's a good idea, and we can use it in this capacity. So, absolutely. And, DPW is probably the first place that I would look at. But, definitely.
Well, they oversee the facilities.
Exactly. So definitely open to talking to them. And then the last comment I have on this is the Budget Committee, they're probably still noodling around on their longer-term projections. They were putting together kind of a capital expenditure list.
I haven't.
And I think, it sounds like they were going back and forth with Russ a little bit on that. I guess, I don't know where that is, and ideally, this system would work in concert with whatever they're thinking as well, or this system would support what they were doing as well. Because we're looking at the facilities assessment as a way to prioritize building projects. And apparently they have their own thoughts now on how they want to prioritize it. And I don't know, I guess.
Well, I think part of it was some of the debt analysis, right, that they were getting into about what's going on the books, what's coming off the books, and looking at what the taxpayers' rates were, how they were being impacted and as these projects are being planned. So I think it's definitely a connection. I mean, it was the last meeting, was it Judy that came in, there were some details being worked out, I guess, on some of those. It sounded like they were close to finishing it, but.
Yeah, I haven't gotten an update, but I do think it's a little bit, I mean, they obviously connected and overlap, but they were looking at it from a financial standpoint, not necessarily going to say if there was two, close projects that they would prioritize one building over the other, because, that's not what they're more the financial and long-term, tax impact.
I just thought they were making.
That's what the Facilities Advisory Committee would do.
I just thought they were making some assumptions on what would go on the books in future.
I think they were.
They were doing that, but not necessarily prioritizing individual building or projects.
What's nice about all these things is that with something like this information here, it actually makes that whole debt service analysis that much more accurate, because now you can sit there on a yearly basis to know that, age of your plant is, your average age is 15 years. And with 15 years, that your cost per year, say it's 500 here, 500, 500, 500, 500, and maybe it's across the board. Now you add that kind of the maintenance piece of it, renewal, right, versus new projects. And so it takes the renewal and kind of defines that, so that when people are doing their budgets, they can sit there and say, all right, well, we know what we should be doing for renewal, not that we're going to do it, but this is what we have projected for renewal. And if new projects come along, that's a completely separate item. That's,
Yeah, I guess I just want to make sure we're all aware that the FCA and whatever the budget committee's looking into and what they're working on, ideally, those should be in concert, or at least, reflecting each other's efforts. So not going off on separate tracks that only meet in March at the town vote kind of thing, so. What the intent is to provide the town and the select board with the best information, the most data that we can come up with to help support their missions. All right, any other thoughts on well, I guess before I conclude the FCA, so the last thing, Mark, would it be worthwhile to send the RFP to the person you talked to just to try to get a rough estimate on what they think a budget number would be for that? I'd really like to have a ballpark idea for how much this.
I think it's worth it if it's okay to do that. I mean, I don't want to.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if it's. I don't know, or it's a
Or
conversation.
could we have Dave do it?
I mean, I don't mind doing it.
You could put him in touch with whoever you.
I certainly can. I mean, it's a firm that does this, and
I guess, are we suggesting that we don't want to put the RFP out for multiple people, or?
Nope, I do that, but since that's not due until September, I think I'd just like to have an idea of how much somebody who's qualified thinks it would cost.
yeah, it would just be a draft, and maybe it's a shortened version of it. And I don't mind having that conversation with a person if it's okay for me as a committee member.
To get a kind of,
Yeah, just to say a range, and then, I mean, just enough for us to share as a conversation.
Are we talking about 50,000, 250,
Yeah,
500, a million? Yeah, I get it.
We don't really
Just a
know, so-
ballpark. I mean, the rubber will meet the road when we get the proposals, and they're
Correct.
saying, I'll do it for this, but
Yeah.
it is good to have a ballpark. So,
Okay.
yeah, I have no issue with you doing
Okay,
it.
and I mean, it would be also helpful information for them. I mean, I'd like to ask how they look at these buildings, and, what is their approach to some of this stuff, just for us to be able to maybe influence some of how we want to draft the RFP or finalize the RFP
Yep.
also. So,
Perfect.
All right,
Okay.
I'll contact the person.
Great, thank you. Yeah, that would be very helpful. Yeah, I really would just like to have a rough estimate for, we threw around a lot of numbers last year, and I've never commissioned one of these, so I really don't know what it's going to cost, so
Well,
it would be good to know.
yeah, so the one that we did for Exeter was $75,000.
What year was this?
This was 2014.
Oh, boy.
But that was an extensive, you're talking about.
Of a hospital.
Over 1 million square feet of property, which, of very complicated, and they were there for a week doing the conditions assessment. And then building the database was pretty robust. So it was a big thing. So that's why I think we were literally thinking it's, that taking the size of what we have here, that's our original thing was like 75 or 80,000 was what we thought this one would be. But I think in today's dollars, it'd be great to know,
Yeah. Sure.
estimate why, this is what this effort would take.
But there's also, like you mentioned, Rob, there's going to be the one-time costs, right? And then there's going to be the annual cost. And so the one-time cost will be larger because there's a lot more effort. But once it's done, then it's just, there's going to be a maintenance fee or a hosting fee that will go forward. But, a lot of it is the complexity. And I think these buildings are more straightforward than the hospital buildings for sure.
Yeah.
And then even at the academy, we had a lot of square footage 2 years ago, and we were still in that range.
Yeah.
So I think it's, it gets in, but the complexity was not nearly as what you were asking for at the hospital, I'm sure, because a lot of information we already had, right? So it was more of them taking the information. They did visit the site, they did their own assessments, but we had a lot that they just needed to take and build into a database. So I think it's similar to where we are here. There's a lot of information. The buildings are less. So we'll see. I mean, it'll be good.
Yeah, it'd be less effort. It's just today costs are a lot more than they were in 2014.
Yep.
Anything else on conditions assessment? No? Okay, let's move on to the next item. The next one I had on there was the DPW project list. The last meeting I attended, we reviewed that briefly. I think that might have been the one that Jen was at, and she presented the list to us. Was there any follow-up on that, or did anybody have any other
think the
Thoughts on that?
request from us was that we actually get a more extensive list, which had because the list that we got was different, didn't have some of the maintenance items on it, and she did say she had some kind of hidden within the data, her Excel spreadsheet, some other items on there to get a more comprehensive list of things. And I think Peter had a lot of questions about the cost, the certain tracks and how projects were determined.
Yeah, that I remember, specifically the site survey appropriation, or whatever you want to call it, so.
But also, he had a question about prioritization, though, right?
Right.
We talked about the Parks and Rec
Yep.
items and stuff, and
Oh,
who made the decisions. We had the discussions with department heads versus Public Works making decisions on projects.
That would actually be a good one, just from a mapping out what the kind of the process would be as far as who's the ownership, real estate ownership, right? So if you have the town owns the real estate and you have a user, who makes what decisions, and then how should that interaction be, and where does the request for, say, a change in the mechanical system? I think the change in the mechanical system probably shouldn't come from the user, it should be coming from, the town. They could say, hey, the air quality stinks in here, or it's too cold, or it's too hot, or whatever else, but when it comes down to it, the town would make the decision. At least that's my take on it.
The town, but then who in the town?
I think it would be, if the DPW is tasked with doing maintenance, right, the overall maintenance, that it would be them that would track and go through those items. And obviously,
Yeah, I guess that's a good question, though. Does Russ approve the list? Or is it left to DPW to say, here are the priorities? Well, they only have 100,000 to spend, right? So there's not a lot. There's not a lot of choices. So I guess that's the question.
yeah, I think the issue is, I would say that ultimately the compiling the list of items would be the DPW, what gets done. That's probably a combination of the select board and other things to say what gets funded and what doesn't get funded.
Right.
So I don't.
Yeah, I would agree with you. The DPW should take the lead on developing, and this gets back to the FCA, right? That's what we're talking about, that they have a list of deficiencies that need to be addressed, and 100,000 is what is funded, and then so who makes the decisions of what the priorities are?
Yeah.
I would guess that it's Russ that makes those decisions. I think that's I feel like that's what Peter was trying to get into, is because there were some projects that were being funded that the end user didn't think were a priority. And so I think that's some of the questions that he was coming up with, but I don't want to speak for Peter, but I think we had last meeting, we had a follow-up discussion about some of that.
So our intent with that project list from the DPW is to what exactly? So
I didn't attend the meeting with Jen, if I had asked prior to that, they must, and maybe this was shared, but they must have a large list of things they want to accomplish.
They do, and I think that when she sent the list out afterwards, she did like a screenshot of a spreadsheet, I think, just because it changes quite a bit. Things move on and off the list, I believe, maybe with some regularity, I'm not sure.
This goes back to the thing, to me, if you have a list, and if they're all things that need to be done, that's the list we really want to see.
Right.
Personally.
Okay. So our intent is to get insight into this, so that as far as the FCA and how we would recommend.
It's like anything, if you have 100 items on the list, or if you have 10 items on the list, if there's only 10 items, that's basically what we saw last time, was 10 items. It was only the items that were going up for the budget this year.
Right.
And as opposed to saying, we've got, here's our request, this is what we have for items. And I think that's part of what I think we're trying to do, is to say, how do we sort through those, and then when you only give us a list of 10, and then we look at that list of 10, it's hard for us to be able to be helpful to say which one of those 10 items is really worth the 100,000, because there was one of Peter's comments was that one of the 10 items was to do the surveying of the land behind the water sewer department.
Yeah.
To me, that's not necessarily a maintenance item. I would categorize that outside of maintenance,
Yeah.
personally. It's a project. So it's that distinction between what is you gotta fix the window, you gotta fix the door, you gotta fix the access stuff or whatever else is versus I need to go out and do a survey or look at a new project type thing. So
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think that's the 100,000 has been used for things that are non-renewal, right? I know they've used it to create offices or things because that's what they've had to do. But I mean, I think I would like to see their complete list of things that I mean, everybody has a list that they just can't get it all done. So what didn't make the cut, right? So what is next? I mean, they have a list of 20 things and they can only do 10 this year, then what are the other 10? So I apologize if that was shared. I didn't attend that meeting when Jen was here.
Yeah.
But
I don't remember it being shared either, so if it went
I
out
think
as a screenshot.
Yeah, I think I shared that, but that was a while ago now. That was probably at least 6 weeks ago now.
I mean, prior to that, the last couple of years, we've only seen the list that they want to do, right? Or the list that was in progress.
Right.
And then because things came in more money or something changed during the year, which happens, not all of that was done on that first list, right? I mean, last year or 2 years ago, the steeple took a big chunk of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there were things on that list that I remember that they just said, oh, it's going to have to go to next year. I don't know if those are ever done. I mean,
Right.
So it'll be interesting. But anyway, so.
I mean, we're interested in knowing what those are, just in terms of how we can help prioritize how money is spent on repairs. I'm not interested in telling them how to spend their money, per se. Or is there any kind of operational discrepancies that we're trying to highlight, like in terms of what do department heads say versus what actually gets done, kind of thing?
yeah.
I mean, is that something that we're looking to bring to light and to see if there's a better way to do that within the town, or?
I guess I'm not clear on the existing process, so maybe that's what
Okay.
I mean, did Jen talk about that when you guys were talking with her about, you have the budgeting process now, right, Dave? And each department that gets a chance owns their budget, and they draft it, submit it, and all that sort of thing. But for capital improvements, is that a separate process that if Parks and Rec, so that's not part of this, they just send us something different to Public Works that they would like to have their offices painted, or they would like to have.
That's usually part of the maintenance budget.
So so is that just conversations that they have with DPW, or is there a formal process?
I don't know. the
Yeah.
answer to that.
I mean, I'm only asking because you're the only town employee here. That's why I'm asking. So
I just wrote down that.
You're the town planner.
That would be a valuable part.
Yeah. All right, so.
well, and he used to come. At the beginning, hasn't been for a while. I guess. I mean, and, it's. I guess understanding that process. That I mean, to me, DPW and Jeff should take the lead, and they probably do take the lead on identifying these renewal things, right? But the departments probably have a chance to say, my office hasn't been painted for 10 years. What is that? How does that work? So, but all
I've
right.
never asked to do it. Well, the
So-
AC doesn't, like Rob's earlier point, my AC doesn't work.
Right.
That's as far as I get involved.
Yeah.
Yeah, but say in your office, if you want a new furniture, how does that happen?
It's never happened.
There is no process, so it doesn't happen.
No.
Yeah.
Actually, my Pam came in a couple weeks ago, my chair's like this. She's like, you need a new chair. So she went and got me one.
Okay.
So that's how that works.
Must
Yeah.
have a discretionary budget for some stuff like that.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I don't know, with ongoing maintenance projects, I don't know.
Yeah.
That would be more, DPW.
Right,
I mean,
right.
I know about larger capital projects and capital,
Yeah.
the CIP
Yeah.
and so forth, that's kind of my part, but the
Yeah.
smaller ongoing day-to-day stuff, I have no.
Yeah, I just
no
want
involvement with that.
to, I just
Yeah.
want to clarify what our intent is and what are we trying to get
Yeah.
out of this kind of thing. And
To me, it would be is that if we can lend any assistance in how they may be able to look at a process. I don't care about, like you said, I'm not going to sit there and tell them how it's, but if we can be helpful in saying, it would be clearer if everybody knew that they did blank, then that's helpful.
Yeah.
Russ?
Hey, Russ.
But I think, that's what I think we can be helpful with, is to bring to light some other processes that could help them be clearer about communications, less of this, I asked for such and such and I didn't get this, because you should know what you should get. Like when I was at the hospital, we basically had every year at capital time, people would have to fill out a form.
Exactly.
And the form would include any staffing changes, any capital requests, any business development things that would go on, and that list went into our process of sorting through what happened from a capital standpoint, and it both went from operating to the capital side. So that little sheet really helped us be able to sort through the things, and then it went into the bigger meeting to say what ones got, the cream rose to the top, and the ones that didn't went back into the till. So it was nice to have that little process to be able to sort through.
Yeah, we have a similar process at the academy. The same thing is where we have a capital equipment and capital project request process, and so it's just a form. The same thing. Form gets filled out, once a year, and it helps us evaluate, because we may have missed something that, it's a legitimate request. We should go do this. And it's typically, or it's the same thing with its personnel. We're going to move this person to here. We're doing this. We need support. But that's where I was getting into some of those questions, that there is a process. And Russ, you came in part way, but we were just trying to, as far as understanding, in the $100,000 that gets spent on renewal projects or maintenance projects, what is that process to determine prioritization, the list, the development of that list, the prioritization, and then what happens to ones that didn't make it, and where do they go, and things like that.
And it's typically.
He's a seasoned veteran right there, yes.
Yeah.
Is it on?
Yeah, it's working.
Yeah, sounds like it's echoing. Yeah, so that process is led by the maintenance department, particularly in working with the departments. So that's really, it's a little bit more of an organic process, I would say, where the departments, we're pretty small.
Yeah.
So the departments are communicating the needs to maintenance over the year. And what maintenance is doing is taking that input from the departments and creating their list. So they're doing that, and they're also going out and looking at buildings and hearing about issues and taking notes and doing the things that they would normally do during, a regular maintenance, day-to-day operation. So those two things really come together, the department's input and the maintenance department's work through the year to put together that list that ultimately begins its journey at the budget recommendation subcommittee. That's really what happens, is the DPW generally, which I think, Mark, you were on, and Rob, maybe you took a turn on it too.
Yeah.
You would get the maintenance project list, and you would talk to the maintenance superintendent about the priorities and that sort of thing. And out of that, it was determined at, I think it was 6 or 7 years ago that we went from 50,000 to 100,000 a year. I think we did 125 one year. We did 175 another year, because we had a specific town office project with electrical upgrades up in the attic. But anyway, that's a little bit about the process and how it works, and that's how we generate this list that is then updated from year to year, and how we tackle the different projects.
So Russ, does it go to you, that list, does it go to you first and you say, yeah, I agree with these priorities, and then it goes to budget recommendations, or?
The list is really developed at about the same time. So the list that I see isn't any different than the budget. Don't want that to be out. Thank you. So that list actually goes to the budget recommendations subcommittee, probably in advance of when I look at it, actually. It's on or about the same time.
Yeah.
The timing of the budget dovetails a little bit, so I may see a draft, in late August when we're talking about the $100,000.
but then it turns over to the budget subcommittee. So I guess the answer is yes, I do see it first.
But you don't, so if it's DPW's role to get to 100,000 on the list, I mean, and then, so you're seeing a list that already says, this is what we want to do. You're not involved in the process, like, the list adds up to $200,000, and you're not working with DPW to say, this is a priority over this, get to, to 100,000.
Only if, when I see the list and I look at the projects, if I do see something on it that is below the line, I call it below that 100,000, and I think it's something that should be a greater priority, we have a conversation about that. I mean, I don't forfeit the ability to have that conversation, but generally speaking, that doesn't happen. Usually they produce a list that's anywhere from 150 to 200,000 out of the gate when we know we're already dealing with a budget of 100,000. So we're right in the process right away of paring back and trying to get, we call it the most bang for the buck. We try to do as many projects as we can for the least amount of money as possible, knowing that just about all of them have a need that we see. So that's really how we make the prioritization happen. And again, then the budget subcommittee looks at it as well after that, so there's another conversation that's held.
Thanks.
I don't know how much of that was blacked out, but
Oh, yeah.
we'll overdub it.
All right, so any other comments on that, or I don't think there's any next
So
steps for
is
that.
there do we want to have, or at least, you said we have a snapshot, a screenshot of
The list as of like 2 months ago.
right, but that was a very small, so do we want to request at least,
I think it would be interesting for us to see the large list that I mean, I'm sure it gets added to every year, right? It's a master list, and I'm guessing there's, probably 100 things on this list. And based on what needs to happen for the next year, I mean, that's how that 100,000 how those projects get prioritized for the 100,000. I think it would be good to see that master list if we can, because it's going to feed into the FCA. I mean, these are the things that what we would want to share with, if we go forward with a vendor, to say, these are the projects that they're trying to get done every year, and then eventually it will get into this database. So if that's there, I think it would be helpful to us to see it.
And I can commit to checking on the latest list and seeing how long it is. The one holding in my hand is 144,000, and it has 9, 10, 11, 12 projects on it.
Yeah.
So we'll see how long this list goes, but I can get that for the committee. That's easy enough to do.
yeah, I think that would be,
Thank you.
it'd be helpful, not that we need to share with it, but it's helpful for us to get an idea. So one of the things we used to do is with our list is that it actually gave us an idea about, again, how many things we're actually truly getting done. So from a tracking standpoint, to sit there and say, if you're always staying at the same amount, you're not, you need to change something that allows you to advance, make progress on getting things off the list. I think that's one of the things when we started this whole thing was things were staying on the list, right? And we want to be able to sit there and say, how do we help them get off the list and get completed and be on the completed side versus the always in the back burner, always in the back burner.
Yeah, and try to avoid the Band-Aid approach, right?
Yeah.
So get it off the list, but get it off the list correctly instead of, a patch, you know what I mean? So then in 5 years, it gets worse.
Right.
You do. I mean, and that's where I feel like that it's, looking in the, we've talked about the FCA for 2 years and a lot. And so, I look at it as that tool to be able to show, for you guys to be able to say, look, we're either underfunded, or we got to figure this out, or we got to do this differently, because you're patching, and you're starting to sink, right? So, I mean, I don't know if that's going to show that, but that's potential for this tool, is to help you be able to say, maybe you're doing well, and you could spend less. Doubt it, but so the tools. We're hopping on the tool. The tool. That's what the idea of this is, to be able to show. I mean, here's what we have for deficiencies. What's the expectation of this town for their plant, for the physical assets, and then how do you fund that to meet that expectation? I mean, that's really what we're trying to get at, right? Is to help you guys be able to get to that where the buildings are being run efficiently, maintained efficiently, and are not a money pit.
Right, yeah, you get the preventive maintenance to a degree where things don't get on the list necessarily, you know?
Yeah, I mean, the things are going to reach the end of their life, right? And so the problem that happens is that you don't have the funding in place to replace it when it's end of their life. So then it's extending it, and it costs more money. Then it breaks, you patch it, and then it's twice as much to replace. So I mean, it's
So I
reaching
guess,
to acquire, but
yeah, as we discuss this now, I think too, is if the FCA is implemented and maintained, that would reflect what's on the maintenance list then.
oh yeah, I mean that's the intent. I mean it's your maintenance list ramped up, and so that you're seeing the full picture, right? And so that's the idea of this, is that you're seeing everything that these buildings really have for renewal or future renewal, and then you're basically, you can use this to help you with that list and be able to say, yeah, look what we're doing, or potentially to say, we need to do more to maintain, to tread water, is what, the goal is to maintain the assets, right, and not get worse, so, or even improve if it's a bad situation, so, and projections.
Projection, that's a.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where, you can look ahead to 10 years and say, hey, taxpayers, we got 5 roofs that are due in 5 years, we got to try to spread this out over several years instead of hitting it all at once, or, I don't know, so.
Getting the roof to last 10 more years.
Yeah.
As is.
Yep.
All right, so I think we've exhausted that one. Any other comments?
Yeah.
Well, actually, that was very helpful for me, because I feel like we had a lot of different ideas going into that, but now I feel like we have better clarification on what we're trying to do with that project list. So that's good. So any other last thoughts? Amanda, you're blinking, so I know you're there.
Oh, yeah, no, I
Okay.
agree. We have a couple of different lists that we probably can start coalescing. That'll be great.
Sounds good. The next item on the agenda is the check the milestone calendar. So we had a little bit of discussion on that previously. I don't have access to it right now, so it'll be our homework to look at it, but prior to the next meeting, and we will look at it at the next meeting and make sure we're on track or updated as needed. Next item, last item on the old business is a library update. Anyone interested in getting an update on the library construction? And I don't know if Russ or Dave could give us an update on that, or?
So what we did.
When Peter Lennon, I missed the last meeting, and Peter Lennon sent me an email saying, because I was like, any tasks I got? And I forget what it was, but it wasn't me. Someone on the committee was going to reach out to the library and get an update. So I was like, okay, I didn't do that.
Yeah, I wasn't at the meeting either, so it wasn't me either, Dave.
It was somebody's homework.
I have asked for an update, I just haven't received one yet in detail.
It was my task and I didn't do it.
Okay.
So,
There you go.
So I will own it.
Okay.
What we did talk about was as an item, which was to have a post-project kind of download with the team and us, and to see if we could get the contractor and the design team to volunteer some of their time to have a download, so that we could actually get a little bit idea about the process and what worked, what didn't work, and to ask some questions. So that was one of the things that we wanted to use that project as an opportunity to, first, large building project in town that was a multi-phase renovation addition and to a public building. I think to me it's a good one. And then we can ask some of the questions that everybody's.
What's the likelihood of them agreeing to do that?
I think, I think the design team would probably do it, and I think the contractor would too, because it's goodwill for the community. They have another opportunity to potentially get on a list to participate. And if we say, look, we could do it if it's possible to do it virtually. Is there a way of doing that for us to save money versus them having to come here?
I don't know if it would save money, but we could set up the hybrid for them to zoom in.
Because that way they wouldn't have to travel here.
Yeah, that makes it easier.
And so we could actually have a conversation, because I don't think it means that we have to go, but I think we could just have a download we could develop a quick agenda, maybe it's an hour and a half, total time, and that way we get some insight to some things that, how could we improve the process? Did it go well? Did it not go well? And I think to me it would be.
Who would facilitate this and organize it, run it?
I'll volunteer to facilitate it. I don't have a problem with that as far as putting together an agenda and reaching out to, to Hope and say we'd like her to participate as one of the major clients.
Yeah.
They'll probably do it for free.
Yeah, exactly.
That wouldn't be, my guess is that they would be willing to do it just because you said they want to maintain a good partnership.
Yeah, exactly. It's good business development to sit there and say, look, we're interested in some improvements of how we work as a client or an owner, and you guys are contract and design team, so.
Well, and then also, it's interesting that they did propose on it's another big project that potentially they're in the running for, so they'd be willing, I'm sure, to be able to share some guidance on this past one about, because, the idea of getting ready to go to another one, that would be helpful information for us, right? To be able to say, that process was this, how did it go in preparation of potentially this other bigger project.
Yeah, and they went through the pain of a few different votes to get the ultimate approval for the library, I believe, right?
Yeah. A long time, right, to do that, yeah.
So would that be something you want to do at a future facility meeting?
Yeah, I think,
I think so. It would make
separate.
sense.
Do you guys have an issue with that, or it would be, you're welcome to provide input, ask them whatever questions you would like as well, I guess.
Yeah.
And the outcome of that would we write something up and
Right, I think
just
it would be.
distribute it to the town?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it would be, part of something we could, again, to share with the community about, what our findings were and then how, as a facilities committee, we can be an asset to the community by, having consultation and doing blank, blank, blank. Or we don't have any value at all.
Russ, can I know you've answered this before, but just a question on the library with the work that's done. The library is responsible for their own maintenance, correct?
Yes.
And you guys help as if needed, emergency type things, but.
Yeah, we will help out if it's an emergency or there's something that is above and beyond the norm for them, but they do budget their maintenance in their own separate budget, and they use outside people for it.
Okay, so they have someone come in and look at their HVAC and
Yes.
and do the preventive maintenance on that stuff.
Yes.
They're responsible for that. Okay.
All right, so Rob, do you want to reach out to the
Yeah, I'll coordinate.
project team?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know what you're thinking for timing on that?
No idea. I don't know if you want to wait till, well, I guess that's a great next question, is when is the substantial completion going to be?
Yeah, I still have the bridge to put in and a few other things to.
All right, so this process will be done.
Yeah, no, this isn't happening.
Oh, okay.
No, this is not happening.
Just optics, there's really
Yeah.
nothing wrong, we're not gonna treat them differently, but just, other firms that submitted and we bring one
No, I think
firm
we
in
just,
for
I
one
think
separate thing.
the initial effort would be just to reach out to everybody and say,
right.
we're looking at doing blank, would you be willing to participate in this? And I would add the pro bono, piece of it to say, this is what we'd really appreciate it, this would help us as a town to be able to,
So it'd be like maybe September at the earliest.
Yes, exactly.
Thinking,
I'm
okay,
not-
good, yeah,
Yeah.
perfect.
Do we have a target end date yet on the library?
I haven't heard the latest on it, so I know originally it was supposed to be May of 2021. They were hoping for substantial completion, but not as of yet.
they're waiting for the steel to come in right now for the bridge, and I think that was supposed to be like in the next 2 weeks.
Okay.
Supposed to.
Well, I mean.
There's a lot of supply chain issues
Yeah.
around.
Yeah, this-
Yeah.
Luckily, things are loosening up, but not significantly.
All right, any other library comments?
No.
No? Okay. So that's it for old business. Do we have any new business items?
I just have one thing.
Sure.
And I'll pass it out. I put together I mean, the CIP is just in, very draft form. Russ and I met with the department heads on a preliminary basis. We're meeting them again, kind of finalize on July 14th. But I did call out all the capital projects that I think are related to the facilities committee and printed out the sheets, and I'm going to give you a copy just so you can have them and look at it. I wasn't ready to give the whole document because, we haven't finished the process. So, I mean, there's stuff in there that that may not even be in there by the time it comes out, but I will get that to you as soon as possible. But I'll just go over it right now. There's the public safety complex, which, you all know. This is, I think this is new this year, the town office geotech evaluation that you may be interested in. Court Street RFP design engineering, and that is, let me precursor that first sentence, this RFP would be contingent on the Facilities Advisory Committee's facility assessment, so, but you can read that yourself. The rec park athletic field parking expansion, and this is 2022 to 2027. You can look for yourself, these are out, that's an out year.
It's a 3-year.
Yeah, it's out.
3-year time.
6 year.
6 years.
6 year.
And then there's the DPW complex.
Yep.
The Parks and Rec Community Center, but that's out in FY '27. And I did put this in here, the new surface water treatment plant. I didn't know how involved you were with the, because it comes out of the water fund, but I put that in there because it's a new building.
Yeah.
No,
I think it gives visibility to it.
That's good to know, yeah, I think, as a taxpayer, it's always good to know.
But I'll have
Me
it.
too.
So just take, I just wanted to.
Thank you, Dave. Yeah, this is good.
Take that and,
That's
for review in the future.
Nope, that's very helpful, and we're actually starting to function like in a somewhat timely manner as we look at this stuff before the end of the year, so.
What is the town office geotechnical evaluation?
Well, you'd read the description. I mean.
Well, I did the first sentence, but that's why, are you, so.
My understanding, it's not, I didn't create the sheet. We haven't sat down and drilled down and questions on this. But my understanding, there's some structural concerns with the building that have been identified years ago. I think it was Kevin Smart, there's some separation, there's some visible things that people have noticed that structural things could be an issue. So that's all I know, and that's just from secondhand source. I didn't write this RFP, but
okay. Yeah, I get. Obviously, because of what's happening in Florida, I didn't know if it was triggered from that or if there's.
Oh no, this has been talked about for years.
Got it. Thanks.
So. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm assuming we're all safe in this room currently. Any other new business items from any member on the committee, or?
No.
I don't have anything.
No.
We had talked about having connections with the other, obviously, committees.
Yep.
And so I don't know where we stand on that. I don't know if we don't recall whether we had somebody who wanted to reach out to the Energy Committee and things like that.
Should we maybe compile a list of them and then see
divide them
there
up.
who can fit with what?
Yeah,
I can volunteer to do that.
We had talked about this a while ago, and the last thing I remember us discussing was kind of on an as-needed basis, try to integrate the groups around a particular project or a cause, I guess.
Yeah, or the issue would be, we could also, like you said, figure out when they meet and then try to attend, the meetings on occasion and then report back to the group just to say, look, we're just trying to make sure that we're keeping contact with energy sustainability, and whatever happening with any other committees that have to do with the facilities related stuff, just so we have, cross references so that we're not duplicating efforts.
I can do that. I am on both of those. So I attend all the sustainability and energy committee, so if you wanted to put it on your agenda item, I mean, I could tell you what they're working on.
Yeah.
I can keep, now that you say that, I can keep track of any facility-related issues and report back. I mean, not saying,
Nope.
you shouldn't attend, but I'm just offering that I'm there anyway on both of those.
I like that idea.
I like it. I have a hard enough time getting to this meeting.
Right, but I think that's good. It would help us just for reporting and, obviously when there's an all-town group, when people can see who's on what committees and what people are doing, I think that's important. I think it was good actually to have interaction with the budget committee and other committees so that, people recognize there are other people that are working on other things throughout the town, which is a positive thing.
Yeah, and a lot of things overlap, right?
Right.
So it's good, so we're not spinning wheels. It's good to know what other committees are working on.
Yeah, and right now, to that end, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Amanda.
I was just gonna say, if there's another committee that we want to know what's sort of recent with, I'm happy to read the minutes ahead of time and just sort of like, at least note if there's anything from the minutes.
Sure, that's a good idea
Yeah,
too. I
that's
think.
great.
If we pick a committee, I can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And just to give you a brief, I mean, right now, the Energy Committee and Sustainability are not working on anything directly facility related. So, I mean, the Energy Committee is looking at community power aggregation, and like consolidating, in a region and towns getting together to purchase electricity in bulk and then be able to decide whether you can purchase a percentage renewables of that energy and so forth, if you so choose. And the solar array at the landfill, HB 315 just passed, which was good news. It's at the governor's desk, and he's indicated support, so that should be good. So that's kind of what they've been working on. EV chargers, always getting EV chargers with the VW money. And then the sustainability, they've been focusing on, the communication, the position, possibly developing a sustainability officer position. And the biggest thing lately, they're working on a single-use plastic policy about potentially on municipal property, about limiting the use of certain single-use plastics. So nothing really directly related to any, facilities, but I think they would be very excited to see support for that.
Yeah, so I think,
just support project.
So one of those conversations that we could have either with either group would be with projects that are coming up. Are there conditions for or things that we want to put into the guidelines for the design and construction of any new facilities that have to do with either energy conservation that are above and beyond what our energy codes, or any sustainability initiatives that the town would like to include as part of those initiatives. So that would be how I would see as some of the dovetails for us is that, so a lot of facilities now obviously have sustainability goals that they're written into their RFQs, RFPs, and so if we want to include those things and kind of give people a little bit of guidance that these are things the town would be looking for. Not that they, but it'd be good to actually, if we're going to do them, let's write them down.
Yeah, I anticipate them getting involved in once the feasibility study for public safety gets rolling too, they're going to need to provide input on that process as well.
Yeah, I'll give them a heads up at the next meeting. I think the energy's soon. SDC was next week, but it got canceled because they couldn't get a quorum. But I will let them know about this and about, the partnership that will happen in the future, so they'll be aware. I think they'll be excited to provide input.
Yeah, that'd be great. Amanda, anything else from you?
Are there any other committees that you'd want to know what they're doing lately?
I'd have to look on the town website page to see how many committees we have. I believe it's quite a few.
24.
I would imagine there might be one or two others, but yeah, I don't know.
I'll come with a little list next time and we can decide.
Yeah, I was going to say, take a look at the list and feel free to propose something.
Okay, perfect.
All right, any other comments before we vote to adjourn the meeting? No?
That was including you, by the way, 24, including this group.
Yes, yeah, no, I,
Discount you.
Well, thank you for,
That's just Exeter, Exeter.
all right, so with that, I will, do we have a motion to adjourn?
so moved.
Second.
Second, so Amanda, do you vote to adjourn?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
And I vote to adjourn as well, and I guess that's the end of the meeting.
The meeting is adjourned.
Thank you for tuning in to Exeter TV. The meeting will be starting shortly. While we wait, let's learn more about Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast channels 98 and 22. Channel 98 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 13, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report, with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well.